GABA is an artist-led situation that exists both conceptually and physically. The physical space is situated in Shantiniketan, in Birbhum district in West Bengal, India. We started to build the physical space during our studentship time when we were doing our masters at Kala Bhavana in Visva Bharati University in Shantiniketan. While initiating the architectural space, we did not have the intention of thinking what work we would do inside the architecture. Rather, we were finding out and were trying to understand the initiation making of the space itself as a form of practice. We were thinking how GABA, this space, will be positioned within this landscape. What role would it have in the context of the surrounding? We also were trying to understand and think of ways how the space will accommodate or provoke us to make associations, generate gatherings, and how through forms of collaboration it will be an active site for imagination. And for the construction of the space, we collaborated with architect Milan Dotto and construction workers. It started in 2021 and is still continuing. The architecture does not have spaces for traditional studio based practices. Rather, it is a space for conspiracies, for having brainstorming together, for building and planning collaborations and going into different forms of engagement. In that sense, this space, GABA, is not a gallery or an organization or any formal institution. It is an active initiation, active making, which is still in process by few young people like us, few young minds, where we imagine limitlessly in every weird possible way, maybe stupidly, maybe in a philosophyless way, where we do not have anyone over our head to tell us what to do, what to think, and how to think. While we were students in Kala Bhavana Visva Bharati University, this idea of group and this idea of what it could be to work in a group and in collaboration in other formats. So this curiosity began to be there, and we started to think while shifting from this idea of individuality, which is what is already like so many times been fed to us within the academic structure. And while we were students, we started to think about this idea of building something together, thinking something together, voicing up for things that we want to create together. And the idea and this um, force of creating GABA emerged from that idea. In 2021, we bought a land while it was pandemic time, and during that time, after buying the land, it is what we also started to think about how do we start conversations from over there. And within these conversations, what came out as the specificity was this: where we are situated. Particularly, we are situated in Shantiniketan, which is in Birbhum, which is in West Bengal state, and it is in India. And within India, Birbhum is such a place which is geographically home to a lot of mining areas. In Birbhum, there is the Asia's largest and world's second largest coal mining. Apart from that, there are also stone mines. There are so many layered histories and camouflaged identities and truths and issues of land mafias, sand mafias, and a lot of other politics involved. So, this university where we all studied, by us all, I mean me, Ritushree, Himangshu, Robiul, and Shurajit. This is the university is Visva Bharati University, and Rabindranath created this university as a form of resistance to that time ongoing westernized education system. While we were thinking about creating this space, an idea of GABA, simultaneously as we were students, we also initiated another collective named Uthon, and there we were trying to pose different ideas of what collectivity means. We were also questioning the institutional system and how institution can evaluate this idea, which is shifted from individualistic approaches and going towards a collectivity, a form of collaboration, a form of group, how institutions can accommodate, or even can they accommodate these kind of scenarios. The university is situated in Birbhum, and Birbhum is a place where nearly 70% of its population is consisting of um, labor class people, people who are considered as low class, belonging from a lower caste communities. And within a geographical location like that, these conversations, these issues are never discussed. Only the popular cultural site is what comes up to the scenario in international and global platform multiple times. We initiated and started to work on our idea of GABA, and the major support and help came from Haji Rofiq Khan along with all our parents, and we started to develop and build and construct GABA both as an idea, as a concept, as a language, and as a space. GABA in itself exists as a parallel third space which is positioned between institution and undercommons. And the idea of undercommons were these gatherings which is not formally structured, the gatherings which are around the discussions of what can be out of these institutional frameworks is something that we take inspiration from and also refer back to. While this process is unfolding with time, there are urgencies, and back then was in like from 2021 and before that also there were urgencies from which we, the four of us, we came along. We decided to come together in a singular space, in a singular mind space, in a shared space. And those urgencies started from this urgency of trying to continue to learn, the need of having a shared space when we were unable to access our shared institutional studio spaces and collective sitting spaces. Along with it, we also felt that we need to unfold these issues of the land where we exist, where we are from. And while unfolding the issues of the land, it was also a gesture to, and we are still in the process of creating a collective power which emerges as another power against the dominant power structure. In the current Indian political scenario, for last few years and decades, there are drastical changes which is leading to mass manipulation, where a certain communities are being manipulated by the power holders, where the low literacy rate of India also contributes to that successful manipulation. And because of that, all of these layered issues and camouflaged hidden scenarios of the land are always out of discussion. Within this scenario, what we are involved in a long-term process of building associations that are consisting of diverse people from diverse background, people from different land, different fields, different belief systems, but people creating their own forms of resistances in their own sites, in their own lands. Which is also at the same time and in a really slow and longer process culminating to a more strong collective voice of associations. It is a form of conspiracy in that manner when we are trying to connect different points from different places at different times, and it is not that everything is said and done at this very moment, but it will eventually unfold with time. As I am multiple times mentioning this particular term, this name of us, GABA. GABA is a Bangla term which means a place which is below the surface level, a place which is good for nothing, a place which is considered as an maybe not looked after and maybe just existing there in its own way. And it is a mocking that is locally used in our landscape. So, from that mocking, from that idea, when we were trying to build this idea and space together in Shantiniketan, our neighborhood, the local people, they used to mock us by saying, see, these people are trying to do something at GABA, which is, a place which is good for nothing. So that idea resonated with us, that mocking and that provocation also stayed with us, because GABA is such a space which is a below the surface level space, and through seasonal changes, it accumulates all of the surrounding elements, which are dry leaves, dust, maybe excess rainwater, and then over the time with these surplus elements from the surrounding, these layers of this space gets fertile. There are these episodes of the changes of the land, the changes of the site, and resonances from the entire surrounding within it. And what started as identifying as a mocking, gradually it opened up multiple forms of engagement with the locals. And over the time, through multiple contributions from our locals, from people from our neighborhood, from the children of our neighborhood, from the women from our neighborhood, all of these contributions are still making and also in a larger way shaping the understanding of how GABA as a space, as an idea, is becoming political. It is becoming a form of a movement, which is a slow form of resistance within the landscape. Within all of these discussions of art and what is mainstream, what is art market, what is market driven, we are trying to create our own independent ecosystem, which sometimes is also becoming a concern for the already existing mainstream scenario of India. And it is also a state which has multiple contributors, but not a single power holder, where the decentralization of power is already existing, which we as GABA also believe is very much needed in a place like ours. Because particularly in India, where in every kilometers the language changes, the culture changes, the food changes, in a place like this, one single homogeneous structure of institution cannot work. And the institution or the idea of building an ecosystem should emerge from the site itself, should emerge from the people of the site itself. And we take inspirations and also from the learnings from our professor, our faculty from Kala Bhavan, Visva Bharati University, Professor Shanchin Ghosh, and also our friend. um we take these inspirations and learning where we are actively understanding pedagogy as practice, and through our own understanding of that inspiration we translate our language as a form of collaboration with sight, collaboration with situation, and that also results in diverse forms of responses with the sight. And through responding in multiple ways to the site, every time our role changes. Sometimes we are artists, sometimes we are detectives, sometimes we are investigators, sometimes we are just observers and listeners, or sometimes we are just part of the neighborhood. Nothing else is required at that point. As I mentioned, that through multiple contributors, how we are understanding that this idea of politics and this idea of being GABA, a political space, is evolving, emerging, and is still in continuous process. It is also a space and a site where we are trying to understand how we are localizing or and we are trying to localize this idea of constitution, and we are trying to also bring the consciousness of democracy to the people with different contributions, different collaboration, different ideas from a lot of people, a lot of from lot of different lands. And it is slowly becoming a space for assembly where children, women, they are sharing their own voices, and we are sharing our own voices, our opinions. And this together is building a space into a political site, into a political movement, which is in the process of creating a reverse propaganda of the right wing political agendas, which are so much dominantly present in current scenario. Through all of these approaches, what we are trying to understand and also build together at the same time is a system, an alternative school, an alternative learning space where through collective conspiracy, through forms of gossiping, forms of coming together, forms of coming to a singular space at different times from different needs, this idea of GABA and making GABA itself is a form of practice for us. And as a idea, as a space, it does not hold any categorization or singular structures of studios which pertain to conventional practices. It is more of a space where we create situations, we provoke us ourselves, we provoke people minds to come together and think, brainstorm together, do conspiracies together, gossip together, and go towards a direction to search for possibilities. It is a form of making situations which also go to diverse forms of making collaborations, forms of installation, forms of engaging in aspects of public art, which we also understand as open archive. Through all of these different aspects, we are understanding GABA as a continuing slow form of protest, as a continuing form of practice itself in making by all of us together.
But most children have the good sense to stop drawing when they reach 4.
For more than a year now, in collaboration with Somudra Gogoi and Rohit Ashwagupta, we have initiated Friction Lab, which is positioned as experimental space that investigates institutional power dynamics while creating collective knowledge and imagining alternative institutional futures through artistic practices. Parallel initiations of imagining community kitchen, library as shared space, these are forms of present routines that are catalyst for future imaginations together.